the most critical issue is really to balance those 6s and 3s. So hopefully you've got that idea, and we'll look at an easy way to describe it. Okay, so the omega-6 fatty acids, corn oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, soybean oil, all your grains other than oatmeal. So if you want to have your oatmeal, I'm good with it. I would recommend steel cut oatmeal. I would not recommend the 5-minute oatmeal, which turns to sugar pretty quick. Okay, now real easy way to do it, mix it up on Sunday night, whatever you've got for the number of days in your work week, and then you can just heat it up each morning, so you're not spending a half an hour. Meats. Corn-fed has 30% higher palmitic acid. One of the theories on cardiovascular disease, it's really palmitic acid that causes the problem. Okay, so palmitic acid is something we want to try to stay away from. So a lot of your cardiologists will say, well, meat's the world's worst thing you can do. Well, yeah, because most of the meat that's out there is corn-fed. If you have grass-fed meat, it has much lower content of palmitic acid. So I would say, I know it's a cost issue, but I would try like the Dickens to buy as much grass-fed as you can. Okay, instead of the stuff that's just bought at the grocery store that's not grass-fed or range-fed. Does that make sense for people? Okay. Now the other thing too that I just want to hit really quickly, because I have some farmers in the office that are constantly asking me to buy half a cow with them, okay, or buy a cow from, because I buy a lot of grass-fed meat, okay. And here's what happens: they marble it, okay. So does anyone know what that is? So isn't a piece of steak that's marbled really nice? What is marbling? Does anyone know? It's fat, right? It tastes good, right? Mm-hmm. It makes the steak really nice. Okay, and that's okay for your toxin day, and we'll talk more about that. But the problem with marbling is the fact that how they do it is they feed them corn the last 6 weeks of their life. It structurally changes the meat. So I kindly say to the people, thanks but no thanks, because you're marbling your meat. So we don't want to do that, okay? No marbling whatsoever. And if you look at slankers.com out of Texas, they do no marbling. They do a great job, fairly inexpensive. And I know a lot of people want to buy within 100 miles, but it can be hard when you have 2 or 3 people in your family to buy local and buy grass-fed meat. Slankers does a pretty good job of that. It's got a great newsletter too.
What's it called?
Slankers.com out of Dallas, Texas, or out of Texas.
Send it freeze-dried or something?
They actually send it in these big boxes that have 2-inch insulation in them. And as long as you know you're going to be home within the day, you're fine. Okay. Yeah, it's really fine. Dairy fats, we're going to stay away from those as well. All the shellfish, organs, and all the fun foods. Okay? So basically your fun foods you want to stay away from. Okay? Now, if you're going to say to me, well, you know what, I'm going to have cookies. What type of cookies would we want you to have? Well, oatmeal cookies, or at least homemade cookies, right? If you're going to do it, let's do homemade cookies. Let's not do the Freihoffers, which are going to have some type of partially hydrogenated oil in it, okay, and all sorts of other garbage. So omega-3 fatty acids are green leafy vegetables, flaxseed oil, fish, olive oil, walnuts, cashews, and almonds. Walnuts actually have a much higher concentration of omega-3s. So in terms of snacks, we're going to try to push walnuts more than some of the other nuts, okay? Some farmers are getting higher amounts of omega-3s in their eggs and meat by the feed that they utilize. Again, they're grass-fed. If you look at some of the chickens, they'll feed them flaxseed. So very often, because corn is so cheap, that's what they're going to feed these chickens as well. We just really have to stay away from that, okay? Most potent source is obviously fish oil supplementation. I contend it is extremely tough to get enough fish oil in, or enough EPA DHA, and unless you're really, really diligent about the amounts of green leaf issues taken in. I think you got to push your flaxseed, especially for people who have allergies and things. Okay, so nonetheless, fish oil supplementation is one way to do it. Okay, any questions on 6s and 3s?
Tim, how much fish oil a day?
Generally, I would say 2.5 grams a day of EPA DHA. Now, the key thing with this, good question, Dennis. The key thing with this is the backside of your bottle. You want to make sure it says EPA DHA, okay? Because the EPA DHA is the potent source, okay? You don't want it just to say on the front 1,000 milligrams of omega-3s, because those probably only have 200 or 300 milligrams of EPA DHA total. So you may well have to take 8 or 9 a day of the supplement that you have to get to the level of EPA DHA. Just do the math on the back. Make sure you've got that level coming into your body. Now, a bigger guy, like you're a bigger guy, you may need 3, 3.5. But again, it's a trial and error type of process. you know, you start seeing people get on omega-3s and they say, you know, I'm feeling pretty good. Or, you know what, I'm kind of there, but I'm not quite there. Maybe you want to increase it slightly, okay?